Welcome back, everyone. This is the weekly performance report. So let's get into this, even though there's not much to get into for this week, insofar as my portfolio is concerned. I there was no noticeable actions in my portfolio this week. I did not do anything, so not much to talk about there. I did end the week up 1.18%, and yeah, I really don't have much to go over, but I am committed to every week providing this information, and therefore you could say, what was the point of even making the video? And fair enough, but yet again, it's a weekly performance report, not a bi-weekly or monthly, so I'm obligated, even though sometimes I feel it's silly and a waste of time to do this. So be it. But yeah, I mean, I can't say I really have any sight on where things are going. You have the whole Trump situation that occurred, and then now you have the whole Biden situation stepping down, and I don't know, Kamala stepping up. You know, what does that mean for my names? I don't know. Yet again, that's why I believe in the whole, I don't know, I believe in top down and bottom up. I think it's ridiculous to say one or the other, but fundamentally I try to buy companies that I understand well enough that, or at least I'm deluded in thinking I understand well enough, because ultimately it'll give me the courage of my conviction to buy the dip or hold as it starts compounding and moving higher. So that doesn't mean that I'm not going to take losses on things. It just means that I'm ignorant enough and or educated enough. Self-delusion's one hell of a drug, so I could say that I'm informed and educated well enough to be making decisions, but maybe I'm just a poor decision maker, and as a consequence, that leads me to make other poor decisions, like thinking that I can make decisions to begin with. But to not go down that rabbit hole. So I have names. How is Genius Sports going to be impacted by whether Trump or a Democrat wins? Like, I don't know. Now, that's predicated to some extent on what I might suspect to be a delusion of it would make much difference either way. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, the whole Biden situation over the last 4 years has demonstrated that one really needn't have a president in order for things to occur within the government. And it seems to me to be a tacit admission that there is indeed a group of cohorts outside, whether that be the cabinet, whoever it be, depends on how conspiratorial minded you are, that influences things, and that at least the country can, in some ways this is good, in some ways alarming and concerning, but that the country can run when you have someone of failed cognitive capacity in large part. So, what's the whole Warren Buffett quote? Buy a company that can be ran by an idiot, because one day it will be. So maybe that's the country. And instead of idiot, you could say someone who just doesn't have their faculties. And then there's also the whole concern over, all of a sudden now age matters. It didn't matter for 4 years. And of course, that's because things do matter because of the double standards and so on and so forth. And I'm not going to go down a whole hour-long tangent about that. And it's the whole morality thing that I've talked about. And I'll just demonstrate it in an example, which is you and your woman are together, and then she says to you, hey, you should come see my parents this Christmas. And then maybe you're a little hesitant to. So then she says, well, a good partner would want to go embrace their other partner and their family and be with them, because by extension, they're part of your family now. And then guilt trips or shames or appeals to your ego. You're not the kind of man who wouldn't do that, are you? So now your ego is getting involved and so on and so forth. And of course, she set up the criteria and boundaries for it. But what I'm getting at, though, is then you could say the same thing to her next Christmas or Thanksgiving or 4th of July. Just pick a holiday. And then she's like, oh, no, I don't want to do that. And then you might ask, what happened to this alleged morality that you were using in a principle-based argument to get me to go see your family? Like, I thought you should want to also share in my family since they're an extension of me. And then that's when the whole game's revealed. And you realize that it wasn't morality. It was adherence and abstraction only for that particular situation and when it benefited them, and they appealed to it to coerce your behavior. You recognize it's not a transcendent principle or ethic that they conduct themselves with, and they are only in alignment with it when it is beneficial, and then not in alignment with it when it's not beneficial. And then you got duped into buying into that because maybe you actually believed it. And that's on a very low level of human interaction. That's just a boyfriend and a girlfriend in a semi-serious relationship. Now just escalate that. It's a scalable phenomenon. The point is, there's a lot of distortion and manipulation and coercion and deceit. So age matters when it matters to that person appealing to it, and then age doesn't matter when it isn't flattering for the person who's clearly ignoring it. And then, yet again, there's always tools. You just call them ageist or something in a thought-terminating cliche kind of fashion, and be intellectually dishonest and not keep constant your comparisons and control for the variables. And that's what people do, because that's what people do. That's not just politicians, that's people. And so be it. So now that's going to be an issue. So you have a younger or less older person, Kamala, let's say, and then Trump, and I don't know. It's too complex. All I know is by the companies I buy, they seem to be set up to doing well. It'd be nice if there was some macro or micro tailwind in their favor, 280E, for example, for some of my names, and then both sides are going to print money, make it rain, lower interest rate, put pressure to lower interest rates. Might that bode well for my precious metals names? Sure. But yet again, that's not, you could say one would devalue the currency more than the other, but I don't know. Trump might devalue the currency more than the Democrats in the next 4 years. It doesn't seem obvious to me that they wouldn't. And it also doesn't seem obvious to me that forcing reshoring and so on and so forth wouldn't cause inflationary issues. And then if you want better trade, then you might devalue your currency to get that. The whole manipulating currencies that you accuse other people of doing, but then ignore when you do it yourself, because that's how the game's played. Because those are the games people make. Yet again, not politicians and not any particular subset of politicians. So I've written to some extent extensively on my thoughts in regards to macro, meso, and micro, in specifically with using the cannabis industry as an example. And same thing applies to investing in general. That was a microcosm in a representative example to help you conceptually understand things. And I would go recommend reading my articles or watching my videos about those topics, because same thing applies here. People just like to jawbone about big events because it's exciting and entertaining, and then they'll viscerally and vehemently deny that that's why they're doing it. It's like, okay, cool. All the talk about political this and political that, and yet they don't know who their mayor is or what's going on in the city they live in. So where they do have influence, they don't make any, or where things are more practical and pragmatic and immediate that they feel they don't understand or know. Yet again, that's what happens when you keep constant your comparisons, control for the variables, and compare to counterfactuals. Like, oh, if you did care about politics so much, then what's going on in your city, in your town, in your community? What's going on? What could you be addressing? What could you be helping? Well, they care, yet again, in abstract. The adherence is in abstraction only. they say they care. Well, true, as a behaviorist, let's say, using that as a placeholder word, one might define care as one's behavior. That's kind of where it matters. That's where morality gets grounded out. That's when you find out a person's morality. Now, of course, yet again, there's context and circumstances. Don't blame on a person what you could blame on a circumstance. And, people are stuck between a rock and a hard place, and then they do some bad things, but that doesn't mean they're a bad person. And yes, I understand that contradicts the first thing I said, and this is the whole multifaceted, complex, dynamic system that we live in. And to think that I understand it sufficiently to know how to position my stocks. The only thing I care about is I want to short ticker symbol DJT, the Trump media outlet or whatever it is. And that's probably never going to happen because I have no clue when the moment to do that would be. I suspect if the Democrats win, okay, well, guess what? You're going to be buying puts or just shorting on a down 20, down 30% open. Like, okay, you don't think there's going to be a lot of short interest or a large short position already built up? When is it going to get squeezed, this and that? It's like, I don't know. Now, I would suspect if the Democrats win, then that, I don't know. I just don't know how that's not a zero at some point. But there's good ideas, and then there's, people say, what do you think about this and that? Whatever. Outside in real life. It's like, well, how can I make money on that? That's how I think about that. When I found out, someone messaged me and said, hey, just found out that the Biden stepped down. And it's like, my first thought is, how can I make money off of this? Am I positioned in a way that will make money off of this? Just like people thought EV trades were the trade for the Biden administration, well, then the EVs plummeted. Will the same thing happen with oil if Trump wins? Drill, drill, drill. I don't know. I don't know. So, it's tough. That's the whole point, and I don't really play those games anyway. How do you make money on it? How do you position yourself? And the problem is sometimes there's a micro or macro or meso theme that you see and identify, and there's just no good way of playing it. And sometimes there is, sometimes there isn't. Sometimes you have to time it correctly. And that can be difficult too. And then you have to know exactly what it is you're looking for, not sentiment and feels and this and that, but something that says, okay, this is the time to go long, this is the time to go short. And then you do it, and then you stick to your guns, you position size accordingly, and then you let it ride. Now, that's how I think about it. That's how I do it. But there's just not always a good way to play something. And sometimes you just don't know how to play something. And with this whole election situation, I really don't know. I have the names I have. I'm slowly trying to build up some cash, take advantage of upcoming opportunities perhaps, and just wait. I'm not doing the worst this year. I am at this very moment, I believe I don't know, because I'm up on the week, and then the SPY's, I'm up, over 1% on the week, and then the SPY's down, I believe, a couple of percent on the week. So I'm neck and neck with the S&P 500, my benchmark, and I can, it'd be nice to be ahead, but I don't believe in forcing trades. I do that sometimes. I'd say it's break even on whether it's a success or failure. So it's not profitable for me to do that. Like I said, I don't know. How's the market going to take Biden stepping down? Because I kind of thought that Biden was going... things were last week, I was confident. And, confident enough that I'd bet some amount of money on it. Which is pretty common. That's the whole Annie Duke, do you want to bet? People say a lot of things and run their mouths, and you think they'd be confident and truly buy their own BS. Like, you really would believe that. But then the second you say, let's bet, all of a sudden, it's amazing to see the disposition change on people. Well, I don't have to bet to be confident. It's like, yeah, that's what I thought. And it could be a small sum of money. And some people, understandably, just don't bet, and fair enough. But That whole do you want to bet? Someone says something, do you want to bet? Men or women, do you want to bet? Blah, blah, blah. Fill in the blank example. Do you want to bet? I do that with people. Someone said I shut the master switch off on a piece of equipment, or said I didn't, and then I said I did, and then they're a friend, so I didn't do the whole do you want to bet, but they were confident I didn't, and I was confident I did, and a lot of situations I would have said, because it is kind of confrontational and adversarial, do the whole do you want to bet, but and of course everybody learns the wrong lessons, as is often the case in life. So, but with out of the way, last week I would have bet that Trump was going to win presidency because of Biden, but now Biden's not the guy, so who's the new person? Is it Kamala? Well, I'm not really too confident. She has the whole, I gotta be careful. I'm just not going to say it because I don't like censoring my speech too much, so I'll just completely not say it, because what's better than totalitarian censorship? But, she has certain attributes going for her, and that might appeal to a lot of voters. And yeah, I just don't want to say anything too disparaging about her. And quite honestly, I don't really know enough about either candidate to say too much. So, nonetheless, here I am. Didn't make any trades this week. Up a little over 1% on the week. And wait and see. Thank you for watching, and until next time.